Thanks for joining us. We'll start off just across the English Channel in the UK. It is the legal backing Theresa May has been told that she needs to trigger the so-called Brexit process, and the UK's lower house of Parliament has now given its backing to a law that would authorise the government to start the process of leaving the EU. The British minister who's charged with overseeing his country's split from the European Union described it as a historic vote. Opposition lawmakers had tried but failed to get several amendments to the original text added on, including securing residency rights for EU citizens who are already in the UK. Well, let's go live to London, where we can speak to correspondent Jonathan Sacerdoti, who's standing by. Jonathan, can you take us through some of the reaction in the UK to this vote?
The reaction's been varied, whether it's political or in the media. Of course, the Conservative Party, the current government under Theresa May, are delighted with the result of this. Remember, they didn't even want to have this vote in Parliament. They tried to trigger Article 50 using what was called the royal prerogative, but the High Court and then the Supreme Court, the highest courts in the country, told them that indeed they had to bring this to a vote in Parliament. So they did. They prepared this bill, and they've managed to get through, after 3 days of debate, the bill with absolutely no alterations, something that maybe seemed inconceivable before they had to do it. The reaction on the Labour Party side of the aisle has been rather different. They're a divided party now. A three-line whip imposed by leader Jeremy Corbyn was defied by some of his own members of Parliament, and he is now struggling to represent an electorate where many of the constituencies which voted Labour in the last general election voted Remain, and many also voted Leave, leaving him in a difficult position. And of course, the media and press have reacted as you might expect, with the more right-wing papers heralding this as the start of the end of Britain's membership of the EU, and those on the left saying that democracy is being played out, but they still rather disapprove of the whole principle of Brexit.
It is now over to the House of Lords, which is the upper house of the British Parliament, as we know. They're under pressure, aren't they, to do what the government wants? We've heard the minister overseeing the Brexit calling on them to do their patriotic duty, in his words.
He has very big words and lots of rather pompous-sounding ideas, but underneath it all lies the principle that the British population was given a choice. They were given a direct referendum, and they were told that it would be binding, even though, legally speaking, it wasn't prepared in that way. So having chosen by a small majority to leave the EU, the House of Commons has fallen in line with most of the Conservative Party, even those formerly Europhilic MPs voting now with Theresa May to trigger Article 50. Now it goes to the House of Lords, an unelected second chamber. There has been chatter over the years about the House of Lords being undemocratic or unrepresentative, but in the face of such a big majority in the House of Commons vote, and also that referendum result, there is that pressure on them now to just reflect the will of the people, as politicians in the government are saying, and not to try to meddle with this too much. Of course, they can make changes, and they may well make some changes, send it back to the Commons. This could delay things slightly, but Theresa May will still be hoping that this will all be done and dusted, tied up by around the 17th of March, well in time for her to trigger Article 50 before the end of that month, which is what she had always planned to do.
Thanks so much, Jonathan Sacerdoti, reporting for us from London.